How do you build a resume? Also, are you concerned that you do not have enough industrial experience related to your degree that you can include on your resume? If these are your concerns, then this video is for you. Keep watching. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Beyond Our Limitations YouTube channel. My name is Dawn Mamora, and I'm super delighted to have you all back on this channel today. For about a year now, I've been working in career services at the Illinois Institute of Technology as a peer career coach. And every single day, students are flocking in for help with their resumes. And this is because most of the time, your resume is your first impression to a company. On average, it's been found that recruiters look at resumes for only 6 seconds. So you have to ensure that you have a good first impression. So the major thing we're going to be talking about today is how to build a good resume. The first thing that is important when building a good resume is ensuring that you have a simple resume structure. And the reason why I say this is that most of the time, a human being is not the first that will be reading or looking at your resume. In most cases, it's actually artificial intelligence engines, and the common one used by recruiters is ATS, also known as Applicant Tracking Systems. So you have to ensure that your resume structure is very simple and readable for the ATS system to scan so that your resume will not be filtered or thrown in the trash. Over here is the recommended resume structure. I've seen a lot of fancy resumes, and while they look very attractive, your priority should be having a resume that is simple and, most importantly, readable. The ATS typically scans for specific keywords on your resume, and some of the specific keywords are education, skills, and work experience. We will talk about each section on the resume, and I'll explain each section in more detail. Another thing I want you all to understand, especially now that we're talking about having a readable resume, is ensuring that you're submitting your resume in doc format as opposed to PDF. I recently found out that the ATS engine reads doc formats way better than PDF format, so I'll highly recommend you submit your resume in doc format. So now let's talk about the resume content and explain each section in detail. As we can see on this resume over here, at the very top of your resume you should have your name, obviously, which I'm pretty sure almost everyone knows, and at the bottom is your contact information. You should have your phone number, your email, the email that you check the most. It's also recommended that you include the link to your LinkedIn profile so that recruiters can easily search for you on LinkedIn. And last but not the least, make sure you have your city, state, and zip code on the contact line on your resume. You do not have to include your full address, because this is something I've seen a lot of people do, where they put the street number, apartment number. You don't have to include that. One of the main reasons why recruiters want to see your location, and by location I'm talking about your city, state, and zip code, is for them to know whether you'll be relocating for the job or not. So please, you do not have to include your street name and your apartment number. That's not necessary. Now the next section is the summary. I believe the summary is optional, and if you're going to include the summary on your resume, please be strategic about how you use the space, because number one, you do not want your summary to occupy a huge portion of the space on your resume, because you need sufficient space to be able to sell your experiences. And number two, ensure that you're adequately summarizing all your achievements. Common mistakes I've seen people make in the summary is that they include obvious information or redundant information. In the summary section, I've seen people include stuff like, I'm a hardworking student looking for a job where I can make an impact, a job I'll be passionate about. And when I read that, all that goes through my mind is obviously because it's expected you should be hardworking, because no employer wants to hire a lazy person. Employers are also expecting you're applying to jobs that you're passionate about. So please be strategic about the space and do not include obvious information. And for the education section, I'm pretty sure that we are aware that we should include our school name and what we are studying in school. And if possible, please also include your GPA. Another thing critical for your education section is to include coursework that you've done that is related to the job you are applying for. Think about probably a maximum of 5 courses. Common mistakes I've seen people make is that they include up to 10 or 15 courses in the education section. You do not want to do that. Most of the time, recruiters ask for your transcript so they can see a list of the courses you have taken or are taking. And please do not include courses that are very generic. For example, if you're an engineering student looking for an engineering job, please do not include calculus, because most engineering students take calculus. Let me just give an example. Currently, I'm doing my master's in engineering management and I'm looking to secure a full-time job as a program manager or product manager. So of course, I've taken a lot of classes. However, the key classes that I've listed on my resume are entrepreneurship and IP management, project management, new product development, and innovation methods. Those are only 4 courses out of the many courses I've taken in school. And the reason why I'm only including those 4 is because these are the courses that are most relevant to the job I'm applying for. The next section I'll be talking about is your skills section. As you're writing out the skills section, open up the job description for the job you are applying for and make sure that you include those skills you have that are related to the skills that an employer is looking for as stated in the job description. This is very important because the ATS engine is going to be scanning for keywords. Please do not include generic skills such as problem solving skills or strategic thinking skills. While these are good skills, those skills I just mentioned are skills that should be reflected in your work experience. So the skills that employers are looking for in the skills section are your technical skills. So if you're a software engineering kind of person, or let me say computer science kind of person, relevant skills you can include in your resume are Python, Java, JavaScript, C++, and the likes. If you're an engineering student, other skills that can be included are MATLAB, Autodesk, knowledge of agile methodology, Jira. Those are excellent skills to include. The next section I'll be talking about is the experience section. I know a lot of us have done tons of exciting jobs, but do not include every single job you've done on your resume. Make sure you read the job description for the job you're looking to apply for so that you can only include the jobs that are most relevant to the job you are applying for. You can create something called a brag file. So the brag file would contain every single work experience you've done written in resume format. The huge advantage of having a brag file is that you have all your work experiences in a single document. When you're creating a resume for a specific job, all you need to do is copy and paste onto the resume for the job you'll be applying for. Make sure you use action verbs. Examples of action verbs are managed, developed, supervised. So basically, action verbs are very strong verbs which you can use to start the bullet points for your experience section, and it will help your points sound a lot stronger. Make sure for your experience section you're really using bullet points, because I've seen a lot of people write very long paragraphs. It's even recommended that your bullet point should not be more than 2 lines long, because once again, recruiters are scanning your resume for about 6 seconds. Another thing for you to note is ensuring that your experience section is result oriented as opposed to just task oriented. So what do I mean by that? A result-oriented resume reflects on the contribution that the person made by doing what they did. So for example, rather than just have on your resume designed a new refrigerator, a result-oriented resume instead would have designed a new refrigerator which will potentially reduce cost by over 20%. You see the difference? As opposed to just stating what I did, I'm stating what I did and including the result of my contribution. How would the company or my team benefits from what I said I did? And also, teamwork is something that a lot of employers really admire. You can prove you have such skills in your experience section. For example, if you worked in a team to get a job done, you can say something like, worked in a team of 5 engineers to design a refrigerator that will potentially increase revenue by 5%. So make sure you also state the number. How many people did you work with? Even if it was just 2 people you worked with, that's better because you're using numbers, which will help your points sound a lot stronger than the average person's points. The other section I'll be talking about is the project section, which is a section that a lot of people most times undermine and often leave out of their resume. The project section is very important, and in my opinion, this is the section that people with 0 years of industrial experience should capitalize on. Look at the job description for the job you're interested in, and I'm very sure that in the classes you've done in school, there's been very cool projects you've worked on that relate to the job you intend to apply to. If that's the case, include those projects on your resume, and I recommend that you should use the same format you use in the experience section. And what I mean is use bullet points as opposed to lengthy paragraphs. Make sure you also use action verbs. Talk about the purpose of the project and also emphasize on the results. What people have told me, I worked on this project but we never actually implemented it in real life. That's totally fine. So something you can do on your resume is write the potential professional impact. So you haven't yet implemented this in real life, but you designed it and you probably had an idea on how it was going to be beneficial if implemented. So include that on your resume. So you could say worked in a team of 5 to design a robotic car which could potentially, use the word potentially, improve driving safety and increase engine efficiency by 10%. Also include personal projects you've done, because it's so amazing how personal projects can take you a long way. So recently I went to a networking event with Google and I was talking to one of the software engineers and he told me about how his personal project actually helped him secure a job at Google. Let me quickly run through the project he worked on. How many people are familiar with Southwest Airlines? To my knowledge, how early you board is based off on how early you check in. Normally, check-in opens up 24 hours before your flight. But if your flight is at 4 a.m., for example, that means to be able to board early, you have to check in as early as 4 a.m. the previous day. But most of us do not want to wake up that early just because we want to check in. Something he did is that he used Selenium. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically Selenium is an open source tool which you can use to automate processes on a browser. So rather than waking up as early as 4 a.m. to check in for his flight the next day, he did some cool programming thing on Selenium to be able to automate the check-in process without him having to wake up. And he put that on his resume, and he mentioned that during his interview with Google, his interviewers were very impressed by this personal project he did. So think about any problem you face in your day-to-day lives and think about ways you can solve or mitigate those problems. Another thing that is also very great to have on your resume is leadership. So if you've led an organization on campus before, and even organization outside of campus, please include that on your resume and ensure you also state the impact you made to that organization. I hope I've been able to help you with the tips I've shared so far on resume building. Please, if you have any more questions, feel free to let me know. And if there are other important tips that I missed out on, feel free to also comment as well. I love you all so much and I really appreciate you for watching this video. Have an amazing rest of your week. Bye.